Good morning, Martin. Welcome back, mate. How we doing?
Morning, Dave. All good. Nice to see you again. You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. So we're gonna touch on some other topics to do all around to do with addiction. We touched last week on how to replace addiction with more positive and constructive stuff. For example, like new hobbies, stuff you revisited maybe as a child. We spoke about how to reconcile with family members and build those relationships. So today, I want to kind of talk about when you are going through this addiction process and maybe you're rehabbing. Sorry, not addiction process, but you've got over you're trying to rehab your addiction. Stuff you need to have like kind of coping strategies in place, and we're going to look at physical, mental, and emotionally. We'll cover those three things in this today's little talk. Um, how did you go about doing that? What things did you have in place covering those three topics?
I think obviously to start with, the biggest thing was physical for me because it was affecting me health.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I wasn't sleeping enough. Um, Obviously I wasn't eating correctly because me sleep patterns are all over the place. So I was like I was eating food, bad food at the wrong times. I was binge eating, I was binge drinking, I was binge everything.
mm-hmm.
So the effect that started to have on my body was noticeable. And actually, I was talking to this with a client the other day. I've got a really strong stomach, mate. I've, without exaggerating, I think I've probably been physically sick probably half a dozen times in my life.
Right.
Like vomited. If I vomit, I'm really really ill. Um, and before I hit my rock bottom, I'm just walking up the street of a bar that I was running, and I just like my stomach turned over, and I projectile vomited like like I've never done before in my life,
Right.
and it frightened the life out of me because I wasn't a person who was physically sick, and it like shocked the hell out of me. And that was obviously my body just rejecting it.
Rejecting stuff. Yeah, yeah.
My body just telling me that it was struggling, like, and that was weird, like, but that was one of the big thing. If I was to list, you know, 5 things that all the other stuff with regards families and everything, which we'll touch on in a minute, it was that. The physical side was basically, I knew that was my body and my organs telling me that enough was enough.
Yeah.
So that was the physical side.
So was it just sorry, Martin, just before we move on? So like looking to rectify that was that just a matter of getting all your ducks in a row in terms of just basic health, like getting your sleep, getting your diet right, making sure you're hydrated, plenty of water. So simple things, basic things that everybody should be looking to do.
100%. But as I've
Yeah.
always said, when you're in any type of crisis, common sense goes out the window. And we've spoken about this before about
Yeah.
our job as what we do as coaches, um, to a human being who's got his act together is common sense. So that's what I say to people. We deal in common sense, but
Yeah.
when you're in any form of trauma or adversity, um, what again, I don't get bored of quoting old sayings. Can't see the wood for the trees. When you're in the middle of something, just somebody saying to you, "Mate, you're not sleeping enough. You're
Yeah.
not drinking enough water. Your diet is horrendous." How many times have you done things in your life where you thought, "Oh, what's he talking about? I'm all right. I'm okay. It's
Yeah.
normal for me to do this," because what you do is your brain, that side of your brain, convinces you that that's okay, and that's acceptable, and it's not. So what it was about. It was about exactly what you said, which I know you're massive on, which is just getting that healthy balance, and them key areas, which to us is just is life, is day-to-day, existence.
Yeah.
But when you're in that hole, mate, it's not.
And I don't. It's not just about being in that hole. I speak to people on a regular basis, like in training and at the club and that, and people who are maybe a little bit stressed or they're having arguments at home. And the first thing they say like is like, what's your diet like? What's your sleep like? And they're like, oh, I don't really sleep. I stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning playing games or computer games and all that. I'm like, well, address that first. And you know what I mean? I mean, we can stay here and we can sit here and talk about the benefits of a good night's sleep all day long, but how good do you feel when you've had a good 8 hours? If you're fortunate enough to get 8 hours, a little nap in the afternoon or something, you feel fantastic.
Definitely, and that's just all that is, mate. That is just that's plugging your electric car in, isn't it? And being able to get 250 miles down the road. That's all it is. That recharge and just letting your, and the other thing is as well, which was a big thing for me, was getting decent sleep, was getting 7 or 8 hours good sleep. Now that opens up another discussion.
Well, then you're talking about sleep hygiene there, aren't you? And making sure your sleep routine is good. And yeah, that's a fascinating subject. And I recommend anyone who wants to go down the rabbit hole with this a little bit more. I'll put some links when we upload this to YouTube or whatever it goes on to. I'll put some links to some more information on this, because I'm sure we could talk for a few hours on sleep routine and sleep hygiene. But yeah, massive. That's really important, Martin. Good point. Yeah.
You can be in bed for 8 hours, but you might not get 8 hours sleep, might you? It's what's built up, what you've been doing an hour or two before that. But as you say, that's a completely other subject, but worth mentioning. Definitely, yeah.
Definitely. So let's look at mental then. Kind of tools in your toolbox when you was going through your rehab and getting over your addiction. We've looked at the physical stuff you looked at. What about mentally? How was you preparing mentally?
Yeah. So again, massive part of it. We talk about building them toolboxes up, and what I do, I look at this in a couple of ways. So this varies between individuals. I encourage, and it comes down to their personality, and I have to judge this, and it's a fine line. This, so you can either, what I did, I reminded myself what effect it was gonna have on me if I took that next drink or I took that next line of cocaine. So what I was going to lose by doing that. So the relationship had built back up with my wife, the fact that I was seeing my kids again, the fact that I'd had another chance with my job, the fact that the mortgage company hadn't repossessed the house, but they were going to if we didn't keep them payments up. So I reminded myself of that stuff. But I also encourage some clients to focus on what they're going to be able to do or not do, if that makes sense. So some people are driven differently. So when I do them initial sessions with them, I want to find out what makes them tick, because I need to get inside their head as much as I can. I know that's difficult. But if they're saying to me, "Oh, I'm buzzing because I've done this," or "I'm buzzing because soon I'm going to be able to do that," well, I pick up on that.
Yeah.
Because, and this is really important, and this what this stems back to is doing it for us. And we've spoke about this in previous podcasts. Don't do it for your mum, your nan, your next door neighbor, or your dog. Do it for you. So in that initial toolbox, if you're saying, if I do this, I'm not going to be able to do this, I'm not going to be able to do that, I will lose this, I will lose that, it brings it back to the person.
Yeah.
I'm not, without realizing it, I'm bringing the onus back to them. And it's not them saying, I'm going to piss my wife off, my boss is going to be fuming. It's about the person.
Yeah.
And I've only thought about that recently, and I've done that probably subconsciously, but it's a massive part of the reasons why we have a little bit of success in what we do, because it brings it back to the person.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, not many people would realize that they're doing that, but it just shows that the type of coach you are, that you're picking up on that use of language. That, again, people who are can't see the wood for the trees and they're in amongst it, they're dealing with trauma, they might not realize the use of the language that they're using. And obviously you're saying is when you're picking it up with clients and people you're working with, whether they're referring them to themselves in the first person, making it about them, you're also picking up on whether they're moving away from pain or moving towards pleasure as motivations for getting over this addiction. And I think it's something that people can sit down with themselves and look at, isn't it? They can sit down and think of the language that they use. Are they motivated by moving towards the things that they want to be able to do and achieve? Or are they motivated by, because they don't want to be in the place where they was previously motivated by moving away from the pain? Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. That and you know, that's a huge thing. That's something that builds over a long period of time. But just initiating that first move, and and then it goes back to all the strategies that we use and the headings that we use on resilience and, you know, initiating change. That ties in with all of that mindset, all of that stuff. All comes into that, but without making that first step. And we talk a lot, don't we, about you know, achievable goals and small wins. That's massive. And what we've got to do is judge what a small win's going to be, because everybody's will be different.
Yeah, everyone's, I think we said last time, everyone's point from 0 to 1 or 0 to A is going to be relative to the person, isn't it? Some people's A is going to be like quite a decent leap, quite a big step. Other people's might just be getting out that front door in the morning.
Or just thinking about getting out the front door.
Exactly, yeah.
Just
getting out of bed,
entertaining the thought is ample for a lot of people. So yeah, and again, that's important that we're aware of that, and that's a big part of what we do, isn't it? Being aware of what's right for that individual, and we won't always get it right, but but we're not proud enough to, you know, we're not too proud to put our hands up and say, yeah, okay, well, that hasn't worked, let's change it up, or let's strip it back, you know. And that's why the journals are great, because you can look, you know, if you do that, you do an 8-week journal, you look back at week 2. I mean, I don't remember what I did 6 weeks ago. I don't know whether you do, but if you look back on a journal and you go, yeah, wow, that's how I was feeling, or that how mad is that? We've had it last week with a guy, and he was like, I look back and I'm like, was there a point when I actually thought that? Did I believe that? And I was going, well, yeah, you did, because you've written it down, mate.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we said before about basic healthy lifestyle, where if you are keeping a track of your day-to-day habits and your journals and your logging, and I know it sounds like you're going to be driven by data, but it's not. It's getting an overall picture of your daily life. And if you're writing down like kind of how much sleep you got, the quality of sleep you got, if later on when you're looking at your journal, how did your day go, and you say, well, yeah, I had an argument with my missus, my boss had to have a word with me because of X, Y, and Z, and you relate that back to your journal, and it turns out that you had a shit night's sleep that night, you can start to address that. And going back to your point before, Martin, about the use of language, if something's written down in front of you, it's easier to analyze it and notice patterns within your writing and the language you might be using. And then people can identify these things that you're talking about when you're looking at the mental tools. Which way you're looking? Are you looking backwards, moving away from the pain, or are you moving towards the good things that can happen? A journal's perfect for this.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree. Yeah, and we use it successfully, and it is a massive thing for us.